Flash warning for photosensitive viewers. I'm going to tell you about the best and worst section in Breath of the Wild. Because this game is the cool kind that tosses you right in and says, do your thing, dude, I don't care, have fun if you want. It lets you explore Hyrule and fight Ganon anytime after you've gotten your paraglider. Now, if you've played this game before, you may know what I'm about to bring up. Regardless, I want to say I had either beat the game once or was very close, because the last time I had tried getting around Hyrule Castle, I'd been scared away by all of the powerful enemies. This time I was back with more hearts and at least Rivali's Gale, and I was confident in my ability to fight my way through most of the reasonable looking enemies. So I get to Hyrule Castle, and then I find one cranny and it leads me to another, and suddenly I'm underground and then I'm near a rail. I initially think I need to find something to activate this rail, but after looking around and finding nothing, I realized that with the Gale ability to bring me back up, and some careful teetering around edges, I could tiptoe along the rail and see where it takes me. So I follow it through this cavernous area. Somewhere along the way I find a door, and that leads me into the real depths of Hyrule Castle, and I'm grabbing loot, scurrying around moblins, finding all this treasure, and then suddenly come across a chest and I get the Royal Guard armor and a Hylian shield. Now, you can already tell that some of this story is disjointed. I don't remember the exact steps that I took to get through this area in the game, but I do remember the absolute rush that I felt doing all of this, not wanting to risk a game over and have to find my way through all of it again, and then feeling like I'm striking the jackpot time after time in this area because of just how much it feels like this section was so well thought out. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because I've wanted to be for a while after this, but I regret to inform you that basically nothing else in this game is like that. And I know, that part of what made this experience so special was the fact that it's a unique part of the game, and that being filled to the brim with stuff like this cheapens the feeling. I get it. But there's many areas in this game that have sections that feel like they could be made more interesting with unique loot and enemies to outmaneuver. I want to have more parts that fill me with imagination and the hope for endless possibility, but what I get instead is sections like this one part of the game where there's a huge isolated rectangular looking guy. I assumed it was a prison of sorts, and I thought it would be awesome to explore. And so I got there, and the secrets I found were a chest with loot I've already encountered, and then a shrine. That's not fun to me, that's just bad. In the process of making this video, I've decided to replay parts of the game to see how quickly I could get through Hyrule Castle again. One thing I've immediately noticed is that I'm ignoring shrines as much as possible. It's way more interesting to me to try to sneak past insanely dangerous enemies or use the mechanics of the game like cooking to add stat boosts to my advantage. That way I can keep doing the interesting stuff, running, enemy encounters, and trying to get into the castle. I've remembered parts of why I actually did really like this game so much. It's a good relaxer. For my faves, like Gungeon or Risk of Rain, I'm able to focus on game, and then other things like podcasts or shows at the same time. They all have their aspects of challenge, but enough downtime and lack of 100% attention needed to allow me to zone out a little bit. I can review my day, think about how I did my taxes for the first time, hope I don't get audited, ponder what's going to happen in the 20-chapter Riverdale fanfic I'm reading at the moment, and then snap back in, get a little kick out of fighting enemies and looting areas, rinse, repeat. Shrines are the antithesis of that, because they demand more of my attention to solve these puzzles that aren't even really fun. Sorry to the Zelda team, their designs are cool, beautiful aesthetic, but I don't care for them. It's not surprising now for me to say that shrines are the weakest part of Breath of the Wild. That's the general consensus online. I like the combat shrines, no matter how many times I die. Occasionally, there are some puzzles with interesting concepts, but I don't like the act of doing them overall. Generally, they're just not intriguing enough to be worth the effort. There seems to be a large amount of discussion based around the idea of wanting dungeons proper, or at least more caves and stuff to explore for Tears of the Kingdom. When I hear people mention caves when discussing this game, I immediately think of this one section in Hyrule Castle, because it's the closest thing to one in Breath of the Wild. and I think a beautiful representative of what having more stuff like that would bring to this experience. Because I'll tell you right now, I liked exploring the land, climbing was cool for about 10 minutes, but it got old, and it will get old in Tears of the Kingdom. And beyond this section in the castle, I was more disappointed at the fact that unless I was fighting obvious bosses, I didn't really have a reason to use all of my cool loot outside of the Royal Guard armor, because I knew it was all gonna break anyways. This is why Hyrule Castle is also the worst section of the game. There's not more of it, and most other sections pale in comparison besides Korok Forest. But the same problem persists there. I wish that places like that were more representative of the entire game. Everyone's brought their solution to the table, and Nintendo has finally provided theirs. You don't want your items breaking so fast? Fuse them. But I want more enemies, more use cases for all the things this game throws at me, and that exploration to throw me right back to when I was 9 years old, walking through trees and greenery, and it felt like it was the coolest, scariest, and biggest patch of nature I would ever experience in my life. Because Hyrule Castle brought that wonder to me. I know Tears of the Kingdom can bring it back. Peace out. I'll be talking more about my hopes for Tears of the Kingdom on my own channel. I hope to see you there.